Now then, people, welcome in. Dan back with Seasiders TV. I'll take these off so you can see my eyes on what is a bit of a blockbuster episode tonight. We've got Denny Ingram in the house. He's waiting just backstage. All right, so we'll get him in just after this. Denny, mate, welcome to the channel. How are you doing?
I'm all right, Dan. Thank you very much.
So today, what we're going to do is I'm breaking it into like 4 sections because I want to talk a little bit about the back end of your career and when you kind of figured out you wanted to be a coach and a manager and stuff like that. I know your influences were like managers that you had that influenced what you do. And then we're going to go into, this might make you cringe, but we'll call it like, I don't know, Ingram ball, Denny Ingram football. We'll talk a bit about Denny Ingram and what he wants his football to translate on the pitch.
Yeah.
And then I want to take the lid off what real football dressing room and football culture is, and let people know a little bit of maybe not behind the scenes like in-depth info, but just give people an idea of as a new manager coming into a dressing room, what your thought processes are to get the best out of them on match days.
Yeah, that sounds no problem.
And then after that, we'll talk a little bit about Bishop Auckland. We'll talk a little bit about the games leading up to that and what's been a bit of a rocky start for Brid in the league, and then we'll just finish with a few questions from the people watching. I just want to ask the chat there. Denny's coming through a little bit weak on the volume on my side. Is that the same for everybody else, or can everybody hear Denny all right? So if someone can just chuck something in the chat. No, well, we'll just carry on as we was. So Denny, talk to me. Where did you finish your playing career?
So I finished playing at Pickering Town, player assistant manager at the age of 40. Decided that the legs couldn't carry us anymore. The head could tell me what I wanted to do. The legs no longer could get me where I wanted to be or how I could compete with these young bucks that were running around. So I decided, without making an official announcement, sort of just faded off into the background, really.
Yeah. Time catches up with everyone, man. I'm feeling it, and I'm only 37.
Well, I went to Tadcaster at the age of 37 and finished off winning Players Player of the Year, Supporters Player of the Year at the age of 37, which I thought, right, well, we can kick on now and make a career of this. But unfortunately, the legs had gone and my time was up, unfortunately, I think.
So if one of your previous managers was to explain to me what kind of a player, leader, bloke Denny Ingram was on the pitch, how do you reckon they would go about describing that?
Heart on sleeve, aggressive in the right manner, not always, but in the right manner the majority of the time, and a real nasty person to play against, really, I think. I was comfortable on the ball. I could play a little bit, but ultimately, as a centre half, I wasn't exactly the biggest of people, so I had to make sure that I found a way of getting the best out of myself to overcome the challenges that were put on me.
Yeah. So you'd probably describe yourself as somebody who's on the competitive scale, probably around that 10 mark.
Probably go about 12 or 13, to be honest. Yeah, it's something that has always driven me from the age of 16. I started off at Hartlepool, And I went in. I was never the most gifted footballer in the world, but what you got was dedication, desire, commitment, 100%. Whether that was good enough at times, then only managers who've managed me can tell us that. But you got 100% every single game, and that was what probably forged a career out of a game that I live and breathe. And I've been fortunate to be able to do it from the age of 16. Literally walked out of school into Hartlepool, and I've never looked back, really.
That's amazing. Would it be fair to say that you've got those genes within you that's pretty much allergic to losing?
I can't lose at anything, if I'm being truthfully honest. If I'm playing in the back garden with the kids, if I'm playing tiddlywinks, the best way I could say it, I'd two-foot my grandma if she was still alive to win a game of football. It's as simple as that. I'd do whatever's necessary to get the better of the opposition that I'm up against.
Yeah, I think that's like one of those. Well, it's not really a skill set. It's like a mindset.
Mindset. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
You've got to do whatever you need to do to get the better of the person that you're up against.
Yeah, maybe you'd have been great at boxing in a different life.
I've got a flat nose, so probably it wouldn't have been flattened anymore anyway. So I might have been all right, yeah.
So if you can remember, and it might never have happened, but it'd be nice to know. Do you remember the first person that ever really mentioned to you? You know, Denny, you'd be a good coach, man. Are you thinking about that after you finish your playing days?
I think, to be fair, Dan, I've always been that type of player and person where I always demand more from myself and more from the players around me. So I think it was quite early on that if I didn't make the career in playing, it would always be a coaching role or the coaching pathway that I'd go down. I think that was instilled from my dad, being a very, very young boy of probably 9 or 10, and we're talking 9 or 10 years, many years ago, when there was no academies or anything like that. You literally started playing from school, and I'd see all these parents stood on the sideline shouting and bawling at the siblings on the pitch. And I'd look and I'd see my dad stood in the background, and he was like 50 yards away from the pitch. And I was like, well, he mustn't care. And it wasn't until we sat round the dinner table and he absolutely picked me to absolute shreds. I'd scored 6, for example, I'd scored 6 goals. I used to play up front. I was quite quick back then. And I'd score 6 goals, and I'd be sat and my dad would say, but you should have scored 8. And what would happen if you'd have done this better? And what would happen? And it, right from an early age, that critical, that how he would pick apart certain things made me think of, how can I always be better? How can I do this better? How could I have improved this? How could I have helped the team more? And I think it's always been there. I played in the youth team at the age of 15. I made my debut at Hartlepool at the age of 17. I was captain at the age of 19. So I've always been that like leadership type of person within training or games, where it didn't matter who it was, whether it was an experienced pro. If I saw something that was wrong, then I'd question it. So I think it's always been there within myself to actually, take it further forward into the coaching side of it.
Yeah. Do you find that you then pass that on to your players, or do you try and stop yourself just picking them apart? Because I found when you can't help but pick up some of your dad's traits. Do you know what I mean? You always think, oh, I'm not going to be like my dad, and then you end up. Do you know what I mean? It's one of them.
Listen, you might as well have my dad sat here. It's as simple as that. You know, I'm like it with my kids. Now, it doesn't matter. I always find something to question or to make better, and I think it comes natural. You know, even as a coach now in scholarship. With kids, I treat them exactly the same as if they were sitting in a first team environment. You know, again, the scholarship went away and won 4-1. First ever game, competitive game, 16-year-old playing against 19-year-olds. I said, don't get too high about winning games. You know, there's things to work on. I'm always looking to try and improve and better things. And that was my dad, as simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah, it does come across that the hunger doesn't seem to subside. It's like, and the next thing, and then the next thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like one of them, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, that's how you get better,
100%. Right? And I think the day you turn around and think you've cracked it and you know it all, is the day that's the start of the downward spiral, and you'll never ever come back from it.
Right. Well, listen, guys. What an incredible insight into Denny Ingram's mind. Right, you got that here at Seasiders TV. If you're not subscribed. I tell you, me and Denny's first conversation wasn't as pleasant as this. We had a bit of an aligning on what's right, didn't we, Denny? We aligned.
We certainly did.
We've come together now. What I was going to say next? Yeah. So, what was it about the brid job, right? Because obviously he came into it as it was an assistant role, but what was it about the setup that you thought, right? Yeah, I'm going to get in there and I want to do bits at brid.
So pretty much, I'd sort of fallen out with it. If I'm being honest, I've fallen out with the non-league side of it, the commitment, the dedication, the players chasing an extra tenner here, there, and everywhere, and me fighting tooth and nail at Pickering Town to try and sort of keep players happy. So I took a backward step once that had gone sour. Went off and played golf and enjoyed myself. Still had the interaction with players who I was playing golf with. And I got a phone call off Pete Davison saying, look, Gaffer's looking for a Gaffer at the time, 80, obviously, he's still Gaffer to me. The Gaffer's looking for an assistant manager. Would you be interested? And I turned around and I said, look, I'm not interested at this moment in time. It'll need something very, very special to get me back involved. I'm not willing to go scrimping and around for this player and that player. And he went, well, look, speak to him, see what's what. So out of courtesy, I had a phone call with Adi. Adi told me the vision of the new owners. I didn't have a clue who they were or where they're gone. I've been in the game a long time and I've heard it all before. Of people coming in and taking over new clubs. Had at Hartlepool about 300 times saying they wanted to take a club in a new direction and they've got a vision and where they want to go. So I thought, right, look, I'll have a meeting face to face. It's all right saying stuff over the phone, but sit and look at people in the eye and get a feel of it. And I sat and had about an hour and a half conversation meeting with Adi, and I walked out of it thinking, I've got to have a bit of this. I've got to get involved of the vision of where the new owners want the club to go, how they want to go about things, how professional they want it to be, how they want to build a community, how they want to make it a community-based club, get everybody involved. I thought, yeah, I'd be stupid. I'd probably look back in 2 or 3 years' time and think, why didn't you do it if I didn't give it an opportunity? Meeting the owners after that, I walked out even more convinced that this was the right club and ownership to be working for.
Just come across genuine straight away, don't they?
Absolutely, 100%. And listen, like I said, I've been there. I've heard it all before. People haven't stumped up. People haven't done what they said they were going to do. I can hand on heart tell you right now that these owners will do what they are saying.
Yeah. That's the impression I get. Look, obviously, you've spent a lot more time around these guys. I probably spent combined probably roughly around 25 minutes speaking to Dan Rodgers. But even that, to me, you just like, I don't know. There's just something very trustworthy and genuine, and yeah, some Denny, as a dad and stuff like that, and just in general life, sometimes you can talk to someone for 2 minutes and go, there's something not right there, or
Yes,
something don't smell right, or like you just get a weird energy, and it's like, yeah, that's not for me. But with those guys, it's just they seem just
absolutely. 100%. And like I said, is everything that I mean, we spoke last night, Dan, regarding some stuff for
yeah.
players' rehabilitation, rehab after games and stuff like that. You mentioned it to him straight away. Not a problem. If it's going to help the club, if it's going to move the club forward, if it's going to help players that get out onto the pitch, then he's willing to do anything and everything in his power to make it happen.
Yeah, and do you know what as well, right? And this might sound mad because I was watching. You might not have seen it, Denny. It's probably not your thing, but there's a YouTube series called Bunch of Amateurs, and it's about Dorset in the National League, and uh, um, manager / owner called Mark Wright. Yeah, and he's like he's bought a club to be a manager basically because he couldn't get a job being a manager, right? And
I
he's
know
the
a few of
biggest
them.
know-it-all ever. He's the biggest
Yeah,
know-it-all ever, right? They've just got relegated after like loads of promotions, so I think the fairy dust has run out. But when you talk to Dan Rodgers, you get the impression that he's willing to listen. He wants the information. Like he's one of it seems to be one of those guys that knowledge is good for everyone. So if you come with a good idea, then we'll act upon it.
absolutely. And he will tap into anything. So you look at what he's brought in already. Duracell. How does Bridlington Town manage to get a company? Exactly. There you go. A company like Duracell to invest in the shirt sponsor. It's incredible. It's how do you then go to and I know this for fact. How do you then go to your bus company and get them to wrap your club on the bus? And I
Yeah,
know for a fact that there's two very close teams that are asking exactly the same. But you
Can
know
we get some of
that
that?
that side of it is second to none with him. And he listen, you've got to take your hat off to it because you don't get to where he is for not being able to produce. The footballing side, he's very, very clear. He wants to tap into what we know, and he's got contacts, various contacts elsewhere that I'm in regular contact with. So again, for me, I tap into what he knows. He can tap into what I know, and hopefully, I can't see why it can't. Everything is moving in the right direction.
Denny, so we've gone through getting to be a coach and then assistant coach and player coach and all that. We've got you to Brid. Now, this is a fan channel, so I have to ask the questions that the fans want. You don't have to answer
Absolutely.
it. If you'd rather move on, just say we'll move on. So you're in there as assistant coach, right?
Yeah.
I think Brid played 5 games in the league.
Correct.
Correct. We've scored 1 goal away at Brighouse Town.
Mm-hmm.
We've secured a point at home against Liversedge, but 2-3-0. And I wasn't there at Belper, so I'm not going to say it was a drumming at Belper. It could have been all against the run of play, but a drumming at home to North Ferriby, which was quite frankly embarrassing in the first half.
Yeah.
And a a poor result at Belper Town led to a decision where Eddie was released of his first team manager role, and you've come in. Can you talk to us a little bit about that period and talk to us about maybe things that you've seen during that time that you've kind of targeted and gone, you know what, that's something we can fix moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wasn't there at Belper myself. I had a prior little trip away playing golf that had been booked for a year, so I wasn't at Belper myself. But obviously, I spoke to Eddie before I went of how we should set up and how I think we should have set up. I was back for the North Ferriby game, and I totally agree. It was absolutely nowhere near what's expected of any team at this level. However, I would say that it was probably about a 20-minute spell from the first goal going in to a complete and utter capitulation of not enough leaders, not enough desire to keep the ball out the back of the net, to keep yourself in a game. And they were told in no uncertain terms at half time what was expected. And I believe second half we went out and competed better, drew the second half 0-0. That doesn't get away from the fact that you're already 3-0 down and the game's gone. But you're looking for a reaction straight away. The games prior to that, again, not good enough. We had to readdress and see where we were and where we needed to improve. We were already trying to get players in, but it was very, very clear that the players that were out there weren't giving everything to the cause, shall we say. And decisions need to be made. And I'd like to think, obviously, since I've took over, I've made them decisions, and moving forward, I think you'll see a different animal.
Yeah, I think we've already started to see this different animal emerging in what we saw against Trafford, which was, look, it was a disappointing loss. But like you said to me, Denny, if that penalty goes in, we win that game. And I said that to my mates at the time that I was stood with. If that hits the back of the net, all the momentum in that game was with Brid. And you could tell that Trafford were hanging on a little bit towards the end there.
I think all the momentum, even after the penalty miss, was all us.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
like I say, look, I think you're going to go on to it a little bit later on, but what I'll mention it now is you adapt in games. And listen, if we got beat 2-0, we got beat 2-0. If we got beat 3-0, we got beat 3-0. But you change your formation, you change your tactics, and you change your approach to go and try and get yourself back into a game. And we finished off with 3 at the back, 2 in midfield, 5 up top. We give it everything we've got. And I was speaking to somebody last night, and I was saying it's just as if everything is not dropping for us at this moment in time, and everything is dropping for the opposition. But we can't feel sorry for ourselves. There's only the players within the squad, and training's been fantastic over the last 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, leading up to Bishop Auckland on Saturday. Can't fault the players. What I've asked of them, they've given their all. And we will continue to do that to make sure that we get a positive result. And I've got no doubt in my mind that as soon as we get that positive result, whether it be Saturday or the week after, we'll be off and running. And once we're off and running, I think with the players that we brought in, the players that we're looking to bring in, it'll be a completely different animal moving forward, definitely.
Previously to Trafford, Eddie was bemoaning the fact that the midfielders and attackers, when getting in and around the box, weren't shooting. That seemed to change against Trafford. What happened there? What made that change? Is it something that you implemented? Was it instructions that you gave?
No, it's just being positive and playing on the front foot and taking chances. You know, you've got to get people in the right areas at the right times to be able to create opportunities to get shots off or create chances, or whether it's a header. And like you say, for me, it's, you know, you're having a shot at goal. And I'll go back to the first game of the season, Berkeley away, and their keeper made two of the most unbelievable saves you'll ever see in the last 10 minutes of the game, which could have turned it round. You know, we've had I think I was speaking to Ryan Blott today, who obviously I work with. I'm saying we created more chances on Saturday than we have in the 5 previous games. And it's just one of them going in, or two of them going in, that can change the fortunes around, and then the confidence is obviously goes through the roof. And then you go off on a run where, you know, obviously we've picked up 2 points in 5 games, but who's to say we can't go on a winning streak of 5, 6 games, and then all of a sudden everybody's looking up rather than down, and it's like, you know, everything just breeds confidence, I think, and getting that first win is crucial to how the atmosphere within the changing room will change.
Yeah. How much of football is in the mind, Denny? How much of the game is played upstairs?
Probably is about 99%.
Is it that much? Yeah.
99%. Football, I've said for many, many years, football is a very, very simple game made difficult by players.
Yeah, I've heard, yeah. I think there's been a few people say similar stuff to that.
And I'll be honest, and I was one of them many, many, many years, and I'm not saying anything I wouldn't say in front of my players, but players are thick. They're thick people. They're thick people. They need very, very clear instructions, and just let them go and hope that it comes true. But it is. It's honestly, I can't even describe to you how simple the game is, but it's made difficult by people making decisions or mistakes or not being switched on at the right time. If you could get 11 players every week to turn up, play 2-touch, pass and move, you'd be on to a winner.
Talking about pass and move, we saw a lot of that against Trafford, and that brings us in nicely into, and this might be a bit too modern, kind of tick-tacky football kind of talk, which is a bit nerdy and stuff like that. Because you see in the Premier League now, you've got Southampton's manager. His mind is I can't get it at the minute. Southampton manager, you've got Unai Emery at Aston Villa. You've got Pep Guardiola, players like that who their plan is, we play this system and we don't have a plan B. Plan B is to do plan A better. Like what we saw with Bielsa. Like we saw with Bielsa at Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
He would play against Norwich and Watford in the same manner that he'd take on Man City. He wouldn't change it. He didn't like to confuse players with changing systems and this, that, and other. But systems and tactics are different, aren't they, Denny? Like you can have a system. You can have a system, but then manipulate the tactics to give you advantages. Basically, target what you're strong at and what they're weak at. Is that right?
Absolutely. So, listen, Trafford game, we had a match report. We set up in a certain way to try and utilise what we thought we could exploit. We set up in a certain way to stop what we thought was their threat. However, their threat scored after 8 minutes. So all the setup in the world comes down to your players out on the pitch doing the job. Simple as that. Listen, Pep Guardiola can come up with plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and they'll all be exactly the same because he's got the players that can do it. And if he hasn't got if he's missing a cog in the machine, he goes out and buys it. We haven't got that, unfortunately. So when you're saying about systems and tactics, my system and tactic is coming up with the best people to do a job that I think is going to make us strong in where we need to be and where we can exploit their weaknesses.
So a stark difference between watching the football under AD and then watching the Trafford game under you was the ball was on the floor a lot more. The distribution from the keeper was mixed, not just long all the time. Is that something we can expect to carry on seeing?
Listen, I'm all for playing football. All for playing football, playing out from the back and playing through the lines, breaking lines. I'm all for it. However, it's got to be done with a purpose.
Yeah, and sometimes you've got to go direct, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen. The first sort of thing that you learn is you've got to create the space to be able to play. You know, if you're playing ticky-tacky football, like you've just said there, I hate all them terminologies. It's either you play or you don't play, and a philosophy and all that kind of carry on. We'll go on to that later on. But to be able to be, if you keep playing short all the time, what's the opposition going to do? They're going to squeeze up the pitch. They're going to pen you in. They're going to win it as high up as they possibly can. You're putting yourself under pressure. First and foremost, create the space. Can you play in behind? And when I say playing behind, it's not just who football. It's playing into good areas where their back line drops off, their midfield drops off, then creates space for your midfield, creates space for your forwards to then receive it to the feet. Then can we get runners in and around to then third man running, be direct. If we're going to play out from the back, I want to play with a purpose. So I'm not playing it to the right back, then into the centre half, to the other centre half, to the left back, to play it back to the goalkeeper. It's literally you're moving the ball to create space to be able to go forward. And for me, as long as my players are doing that, then I've got no issue.
Is there something in targeting specific duels as well in a game that where, say, for instance, in the first half, you might see that a brid player is constantly getting headers and knockdowns into good areas, and maybe on the other side of it, if that's happening against you, what do you do about that? How do you go about fixing them?
I change what I'm expecting my players to do. So, for example, if they've got a big target man tomorrow, I want our midfield to play in a certain way. I won't go into detail, obviously, but I want our midfield to go and play in a certain way. However, if there's too many balls getting into their front men, I'll very, very quickly change it and ask certain people to do a different job. I'll adapt and change formation, tactics, whatever to suit what is best for us. Whether that's after 10 minutes, whether after half an hour, 70 minutes, whatever. It's, you go out with a game plan. Absolutely. We worked on it last night and we went out with a shape and how we want things to go. Football doesn't work like that, unfortunately, unless you're a Pep Guardiola where you can go and dictate and control.
Like Pep Guardiola has no issue with being pressed and playing it around the back because he's got like the world's best players in every position.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So listen, yes, I want to play football, but I want to play it in the right way, and that's front foot.
Yeah.
Play with a purpose, not just tippy-tappy around.
Yeah,
for the sake of it.
Again, essentially, it's tactics to win the game, isn't it? That's what it comes down to.
Well, we've got match report on Bishop Auckland. We've watched highlights. We've sat down, seen where we think we can exploit their weaknesses. We've come up with a plan to go and address it and sort of combat what their strengths are. And we'll see tomorrow, won't we? If the players, if the players go out and do the job, then I've got no doubt that we're coming home with 3 points.
Buzzing. One person that I'll bring up, right? Because I was watching highlights of Garth of Town the other day, and I can't remember his name, but he's called Mohammed or Mo. He's a winger, I think. He's mental. He shouldn't be in this league, I don't think. He's crazy.
He's not in this league anymore. He's just gone to York City.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, they've just paid it. They've just paid a fee for him.
Yeah, because he was different. Right, so we've done that. Anyway, by the way, chat, I can see you getting some questions in. We will do them at the end. We're going to keep this to about an hour because an hour is long enough for everyone, right? So
it's more than enough, Dan. Thank you. I've got a little one to get to bed.
All right, we'll do 5 minutes. All right, I've got one last question for Denny. We'll get the questions in from the chat. Look, we appreciate this from Denny. I have mentioned if we can get him on once a month, even if it's once every 2 months for a quick chat, it won't be as long as this in the future. But yeah, I think he's cool with that.
Listen, I'm more than happy, Dan, to interact with anyone. Whether it's this, whether it's people coming up and asking me questions at games, whatever it is, I'm happy to answer anything as honest and as open as I possibly can.
Yeah, brilliant. So don't be a stranger around Denny at Queensgate. If you've got a question, just go ask the man. He's open to it. Right, let's just do the questions in the chat. We've covered quite a lot there. Everyone kind of knows what to expect now. The only other one question, real quickly, is what does a Denny Ingram dressing room? What's the atmosphere within that? I know it'll change based on wins and losses, but is there a real togetherness there? Is there a bond
Absolutely.
between the
boys? Your dressing room will get you through a season and be successful if you've got everybody buying into it and everybody together. Best dressing room I've ever been in, Halifax Town, under Chris Wilder. We weren't the biggest peers in the league. The budget wasn't great, but what we did have was a group of absolute soldiers who talk. It's a saying, who would you want to be in the trenches with? Every single one of them kids you would go into the trenches with, because you knew when you went into battle, they had your back and you had their back. And when things were going tough, we all stuck together and dug ourselves out of the mire, shall we say.
You even saw like aspects of that when he took Sheffield United to 9th in the Premier League.
Absolutely. Prime example.
Nobody was really giving him a shot, and he did that. And look, I'm a Leeds fan. I don't even like Wilder, but we won't go there.
He was an unbelievable bloke. Unbelievable bloke.
Yeah.
Unbelievable
He just seems
manager,
to hate Leeds.
unbelievable coach.
He just seems to hate Leeds. I don't know why, but a lot of people do. But
no, seriously, I've tried to install that from that time. It probably, you asked about managers, probably is the biggest influence I've taken of how to get a dressing room together. And I think since then, I haven't been in very many dressing rooms that have ever not been together. And those that didn't buy into it weren't in that dressing room very long.
Amazing. And do you know what? You can't buy experience, Denny. So what you've got, if you can get that across to the boys, having worked under Wilder, mate, I'm excited. But let's just do the... Chris Benrose has got 2 quick questions in. We'll do them, and then we're going to sayonara, good night. So we'll do these 2, and then we're out. So the first one, Denny, you've only just arrived at Brid, but how long do you think it will take to bring through the talent that's been established at our reserve and youth levels we now have got up and running?
How long's a piece of string? I can't promise anything. Obviously we've been in this game now regarding the scholarship in particular. We've run the Scarborough Football Scholarship for the last 7 years. We've had current players out at Pickering, Selby, a number of them. However, what we do find is, and this is no disrespect from where they come from, is we have to strip it right back. So the game understanding, the sort of the tactics side of it needs to be drilled home. A lot of them have come just from local football, so the stature of them find it a big step up, even 19s and 23s that we do. So realistically, it'll probably take about 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and look, players develop at different rates as well. Look,
absolutely.
Archie Gray's at Tottenham at 18. Do you know what I mean? And that's just wild.
Yeah.
But right, one more from Chris Benrose. Then we've got one from Harry English. If you put in comments in now with questions, I'm sorry we can't do them. Then he's got 5.
I've got another 15. I've got another 15, 20 in me, Dan. Don't worry about that, mate.
Okay.
20
Chris
minutes,
Benrose,
I mean, not another 15, 20 questions.
Yeah. All right, we've got that one up. Another one from Chris Benrose. As a former club sec here at Brid, so a former club secretary, Chris Benrose, I witnessed good players who would rather just play locally so they could be out on a Saturday night. Can you change that mindset?
Absolutely, 100%. 100%.
Simple as that.
Yeah, but without a shadow of a doubt. I remember going from Tadcaster, where it totally changed the mindset of that club around, with Paul Marshall, who's now manager at Garforth. Paul Marshall went into Pickering. We'd done a fans forum thing about players going out on Friday nights, playing on a Saturday, going out on Saturday night, playing on a Sunday morning for local teams. And we sat in front of them and said that mindset will change. Many people turned around. Well, I'm saying many people. They didn't have many people at Pickering Town. So there was probably about 2 or 3 of them turned around and said, you'll never ever change the mindset of local players. I went, you watch.
Every player is local to somewhere.
It happened once, Dan. A player had gone and played Sunday football when he'd been told he wasn't allowed. It never happened again.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're going to go against instructions, you're just not going to play, right?
Well, the top bottom is you buy into what I want, and if you don't buy into what I want,
you're not part of it.
I won't want you.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
all I can do is try and help and guide these young kids in what I believe is going to get them to the next level. If they don't buy into it, then that's entirely up to them, because there'll be somebody else down the line that will buy into it.
But Denny, right, respect is hard earned but easily given away, right? So
yeah,
like if you let people take liberties, then that's more damage to you than anybody, isn't it?
I'll guarantee you, Dan, there will be not one person that ever takes liberties out of me.
Yeah. Just can't do it.
They might try, and they might get a little ticking off, and sort of guided in the right way to go about things or not to do things. But if they do it again, they'll be out the door.
Basically, there's a very clear line in the sand, right? Don't step over it. It's that simple.
And I don't think that line was ever there until now, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, like you said, you do what you need to do to get the team to where it needs to be to win games, to get this club where you want it, where you and Dan Rogers want it to go as a team with Gavin Branton and Kula. And look,
if they want to buy into it, even people I'm speaking to now, if buy into it, the club will look after you. If you don't want to buy into it, you go. Listen, if somebody wants to go out on a Friday night, I ain't anybody to tell them they're not allowed. But if they want to play for Bridlington Town and go out on a Friday night, you very, very quickly got a decision to make. You either want to go out with your mates on a Friday night and squander your chances with Brid Town, or you want to play for Brid Town and you say, see you later, mate. Simple as that.
I love that, because it's like standards, but it's also putting pride in the badge, right? So
that's what you're representing.
Yeah,
that's what we're getting paid to do. Is provide a service to the club.
Yeah, and just like the club's like where it's at now, but there's no glass ceiling here. Like the club will go as far as it can go with the people that it's got, right? So You know,
You
like I
were
was
you were
talking.
right in what you were going to say, Dan. The club will go as far as the players on the pitch, because
Yeah,
ultimately they're the ones. Then the rest of it has a hierarchy. So to get them players in, it's my responsibility. To get them players performing, it's my responsibility. If them players don't perform and don't get the result, who's the one that's going to pay the price? I'm not prepared to sit here and allow players not to perform to their potential, or
yeah,
else I'll get rid of them and I'll get players in that will, or else I won't be here.
yeah.
I'm,
But
I'm
like,
under no illusions whatsoever. I've been in the game far too long, and I understand where the club wants to go and where the owners want to go. And if I don't perform, and I'm not prepared to sit around and let players let me down or the club down.
everybody relies on each other, right? Everyone's in it together, so
We're
everyone's
all
got.
a team. Absolutely. We're all a team. Listen, you talk about players, but my staff are just important as the players. The players are just important as my staff. And that goes for everyone, like support staff, the volunteers, because everybody relies on everybody else to make the ship sail very, very smoothly.
One question here from Harry English. Excited to get Danny Earl in the team? Are you excited to get Danny Earl in the team? We've struggled for goals early on this season. He could be the key.
I know exactly how key he is, Harry. Myself and Ryan Block plucked him from Hall Road Rangers when I was at Pickering Town. Um, and he was an absolute breath of fresh air. So I know all about Danny. He was one of the first people I contacted when I came in as assistant manager. He made the decision that he wanted to. He's just had a newborn, so he wanted to be closer to home, which totally respect. Saw him in pre-season, saw the results of where we were going, or the lack of goal threat, the lack of creativity, and just thought, I can't let him just sit around in NCL.
Yeah,
So I had to go. I had to go out and get him, and I've got him.
it's
So
class.
I know exactly. I know exactly what he's capable of. I know exactly what he can do, what he
Yeah,
can't do.
everybody at town actually knows what he can do because he was a fan favourite around here for
Yeah,
a good while.
yeah.
So let me ask this: Nathan Dyer, is that
Yes.
somebody else you know from Pickering?
I've known Nate, or known of Nate, for about 6 years.
Really?
Um, we I've got close contacts with Tim Ryan at York City. He came across, I'm saying about 5, maybe even longer, probably about 7 years. Came across with Nathan in the youth team with Josh Whitley, who's at goalkeeper at Scarborough now. We played a friendly. Who is that kid there? Within 2 weeks, he was involved with the first team. Then sort of, I think he's lost his way a little bit. And, Nate's a great player.
Yeah,
He needs that reassurance of, how good he is. We all know how good he is, how much of a threat. So I've kept an eye on him for a few years. I tried to get him when I was at Pickering. He decided to go elsewhere. I think the club last year tried to get him from Pickering, but weren't in a position to be able to do that.
yeah.
We are now in a position to be able to go and get the Nathan Dyer that you saw last week, and I believe that he's only going to get better.
So what we'll do is, Denny, is we'll finish on this. Talk to me about the characters, not the individual characters, but talk to me about the overall character now in this dressing room. And do you believe it needs additions in character? We've seen Sam Kerr come in. We've seen Nathan Dyer come in. That might not be the end of it. It could be the end of it. We don't know. Well, I don't know. But the character within the dressing room, does it have that competitive edge? Does it want to win enough?
It'll be added to. We've brought boys in that are hungry, who want to play in a certain way, want to play for the club. You know, I think this club at this moment in time is very much in transition from the old into the new. Have we got the right characters in? I believe that we've brought more than enough in to change that mentality. Is the mentality being changed enough? No. Will we bring other players in to further that mentality? Absolutely, 100%. And like I said, right from the off, is you will see a different animal in a week or two's time.
We can't wait to see it, mate. And let me say this for everybody that's been watching. For the we usually get a lot more views than live, so this will get way over 200 views, which is half the gate at Brid, really. Just a big thanks to Denny from everyone involved at Seasiders TV. You know, he's a busy guy. We appreciate it. We hope to get him on again. It won't be as long as this. It'll just maybe every 4 to 5 games we'll just come on for a chat and see where we are and maybe talk about the next couple. But Denny, it's been awesome, mate.
No worries. Been a pleasure.
Perfect. Right, cheers, mate. We'll let you get on.
All right.
That's been Denny Ingram. That has been an awesome episode. You know it has. If you aren't subscribed, subscribe. This is Seasiders TV. This is what we do. We get it. We're going to be locked in for the whole season and many seasons beyond. It's only going to grow. It's only going to get better. Thanks to my regulars. You know who you are. Yeah, that's been Seasiders TV. Peace.